It's time for ProAm Predictions.
Hello and welcome back to ProAm Predictions. I am Paul O'D representing the amateur side. And of course, joining me representing the pros is Bellator Bantamweight contender Brian the Pike Man Moore. How are you doing today, Brian?
I'm all good, Paul. I'm feeling a little bit better after last week. The bets, Izzy let me down, but not a bad little streak all the same.
Yeah,
not a bad record.
You're out to playing catch up with me a little bit already. So we're even now going into this week again, 17 and 20. It's getting competitive. If nothing else, our picks might be shocking, but at least a bit of competition between us.
I know, yeah. Well, look at it again. It's been a fucking crazy, or even the card, the Izzy and Jan card was a brilliant card, but a lot of upsets, a lot of things that people didn't predict. So again, 2021 has been a bit mental for picks and for MMA, but it's great.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal card last week, though. We have to touch on it a little bit. What did you make of Izzy in the main event?
You know, a lot of people are probably been a little bit hard on him. I think he's ruling the middleweight scene, and to go up a weight class, especially when it's such a gap from 185 to 205, it's a big ask. But I don't think there's been a better striker in the sport, in my opinion, and I think he's only going to show that more and more. But there is, your grappling has to be exceptional if you're going up that much weight. He did get found out in that respect. I think he can grapple anyone and avoid grappling, dilemmas at 185 where the size difference doesn't play a part. But when you go up against someone like Jan or like more guys at 205 that do carry that size on him, I think he, as you've seen, he did struggle with it. But it kind of puts the John Jones fight way back now, you know what I mean? Which is unfortunate because that would have been cool to see. But
I still think stylistically that's a better matchup for him at 205 pounds, just based on now. Obviously, there is the question mark: can John Jones just take him down and completely out wrestle him for 25 minutes? But and then you look at the likes of Glover Teixeira. I mean, that's a horrible matchup for him at 205 based on what we've seen so far. So yeah, he's got to go back to 185 for me and clean out the division. And maybe if he's moving back up, look at putting on that weight. Maybe that was the big issue at the end of the day.
I think he's a guy with his frame that will struggle to put on a lot of size. Plus, I think that long, lankier frame suits his style so well.
Yeah.
Like again, I'll say it. I think he's the best striker in mixed martial arts probably ever. He is absolutely unbelievable. And the great thing about it is there are plenty of contenders at 185. Even the jump to 205 was probably a bit premature, but he's a guy who's fantastically easy to market because he's such a likable character. He's such an interesting character that you make that guy a champ. It's a kind of a no-brainer. So it was obviously, he strived for greatness. He fell short, but he's still great. He's still a great fighter, and he'll show that at 185 again and again. I really want to see him fight Whittaker, though. I think Whittaker and him, a rematch, I think would be a different story. It'd be a far more competitive fight. Yeah. I think Whittaker since has looked really, really good. So. Plus, how many 185ers now are going to go, you know what, let's just try and grapple this guy, because all of them are trying to stand with him. And again, you're standing with the best striker. We know Whittaker has a phenomenal wrestling shot. He was a great double leg, but I think he was emotionally invested in being the better striker on the night, and he obviously fell up short. But along with Whittaker, there's loads of great talent. I just don't want to see him fighting Costa because he's really fucking annoying at the minute with all his excuses. But there's lots of contenders at 185.
Yeah, and just to touch on as well, obviously this does huge things for Jan Blachowicz' star power, but to touch on as well, Amanda Nunes, and we've said it that she's pound for pound number one, male or female. Both of us agree on that. And since, of course, the UFC have abolished the 145-pound division, on the back of that performance. So what's next for Amanda? Like obviously Juliana Pena seems to be the fight she's calling for it, but I mean it's hard to look forward to any bout, with perhaps the exception of Shevchenko if that does happen. But what do you make of the position Amanda finds herself in?
Like, she's done it on her amazing skill set being pound for pound. We've said it a few times now, her being pound for pound probably the best fighter in the world, and it's hard to argue. I thought she looked so composed in there. You could see Anderson looked really, really amped up. It was kind of almost hard to know what she was going to throw, but Amanda just kept her cool and stuck to her game plan and looked superior everywhere. You know, she's a powerhouse. There's loads of great fights for her. Loads of great fights for her.
Yeah, Megan looked amped up until she got clipped at the first time, and her eyes doubled in size.
Yeah, I think you see that flare of you see the eyes get whiter because when you see this so many times, I've seen it with Connor plenty of times with guys he's fought. When lads just get touched, they go, "What the fuck is going on here? This is power I've never felt before." And Amanda Nunes possesses that. You know, but I was just so impressed with her composure. You know, like Anderson was a banana skin, you know. You go in and you lose to her, you almost look kind of foolish in a way, not to say to take anything against Megan or anything, but the odds were just so stacked against her that you're almost thinking that, oh, I should win this, and it almost puts more pressure, but not, it didn't phase Nunes in the slightest, and she just was massively professional and looked outstanding yet again.
And before we move on to this week's card and giving our picks, we do have to touch on the other title fight on the card, of course, the bantamweights. And what did you make of the finish? And what's your opinion on all the hatred that Aljamain has been getting since?
That's a bit messed up, isn't it? Like, it's such a shame to see the title, you know, be won over that kind of a circumstance. But Aljamain Sterling is not to be. He's not to be blamed for that. You know what I mean? He's not to be blamed. Now, that being said, I thought it was a great contest. I loved how the fight was going. I thought Sterling was so amped up, so buzzed up that he just lost so much energy trying to put it onto him, trying to be the busier man with the higher volume. And again, and Peter Yan looked really composed. You'd swear he had 50 fights in the octagon, the way he kept his cool and done his work. And it looked like the tide was certainly shifting and getting more towards Jan's favor. And I think a lot of people, based on that, thought that Sterling looked for the easy way out, but he didn't. You know, it's at the end of the day, how can you blame a man when you're not in his shoes? You don't know how many referees that guy was seeing. You don't know how, you know, dizzy he was. You know how concussed he was. He was obviously very upset himself to win the title that way. For me, I just, in my opinion, I just think that nobody holds that title just yet. They have to do it again, you know, and I can't wait to see the rematch. It's going to be very interesting to see which way they game plan the next one.
Yeah, and I did want to touch on that with you because, of course, in your very first bantamweight contest, the Cage Warriors, you faced a similar fate where your opponent kneed you when you were down, and the referee asked you if you wanted to continue, and you continue with the fight. Now, you were obviously hurt in that scenario, but you've said it to me previously that you felt like you could continue, and we all know that your game plan is you're going to fight until you're taken out of the fight. Looking at that situation with Aljamain, is it something that you think that perhaps maybe you would do differently if it happened to you again, or is that fight in you? I just think, is it different for different people?
I don't want to turn it on me, but my mindset when I fight is to kill or be killed. So if someone gives me the option to keep fighting when there is a little bit of fight left in me, I'm going to take it every single time. It's just because if I don't go in with that mindset, Paul, I'm not going to fight to where the ability I can. That night it was a bad one for me because it was my first cut to bantam, and I'd done it all wrong. I won't even tell you the shit that we done to get down to 135. You know, it was. But anyway, and it wasn't going well for me before that. I was getting beat in a decision. So to turn around and not keep fighting, it's just not in me. But I think Sterling was different. I think that maybe. I think he took such a heavy shot that he was like, I felt a bit out of it after I took the shot and I got cut, but there was a little bit of time left on the clock, and again I just can't say no to a fight, so I don't know. I can't comment on the difference, you know what I mean? But all I do know is Aljamain Sterling is the only one who was in Aljamain Sterling's shoes that night. Only he can really know how hurt he was, and from my point of view, he was too hurt to continue after an illegal knee.
Obviously you're going to say that from your position, but I challenge anyone. That fight is on UFC Fight Pass. I challenge anyone that has Fight Pass to go back and look at that fight and tell me that the knee Brian Moore took off Marat Pekov wasn't as hard as Jan's knee. but you're going to say that it's different, obviously. We do need to talk about some fights this week. Of course, we're looking ahead to UFC Vegas 21, headlined by Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. And please subscribe to the channel for content made by fans, for the fans. Hit the bell to be informed when our videos go live. And we need to talk about the opening fight of the card, Eric Anders versus Darren Stewart. What do you make of this fight?
Yeah, it's a tasty fight, 185. I've followed Darren Stewart's career since Cage Warriors. He's always been in he's always been in good fights. From looking at him in Cage Warriors, I wasn't so sold on him. I didn't know how his career would go in the UFC, but he's managed to put together a lot of really good wins in his tenure in the UFC. So I think that he's impressed me. How do you find this fight? What do you make of Darren Stewart yourself from seeing him on the local scene?
Yeah, look, I knew he was going to get to the UFC, but like you said, there was that question mark over him. He was kind of inconsistent in some of his performances early doors. But you look at his record. Now, his record is 5-6 with 1 no contest in the UFC. But I don't think that does him any favours. His losses are to Holland, Shabazian, Roberson, Marquez, all big hitters and tough outs, especially early doors in your UFC career. He's fighting a guy that's 5-5 in the UFC, but similarly has some tough losses there. I mean, you're looking at Machida, Thiago Santos, Khalil Roundtree.
Yeah.
These guys have fought elite level fighters for the last 10 fights. So their records kind of don't really describe the fight that we're getting. For me, this is a very tough one for Stewart, because I think Anders does have that slight advantage in the people that he's competed against. His wins over Meerschaert, they're both coming off a very tough loss, but I just think Anders has bigger wins in the UFC. And Stewart is susceptible to a finish. We know that. So for me, I would be leaning towards Eric Anders getting a finish in this one.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. The only thing I will say is when I've counted Darren Stewart out, and I've counted him out most times, he's picked up wins. He's been very active in his career in the UFC as well. As one thing that we didn't touch on. It feels like he's only been in there but he's had 11 fights. He's been inconsistent. One thing that I think we kind of need to look at with pretty much all fights on this card, bar the main event, maybe co-main, or bar the last 3 fights, is I think most people on this card are fighting for their contract, or are fighting for their job. You look at the kind of cuts that the UFC are making, and guys that are going in with 5-5 and 5-6 records, and it's not just these guys. There's a lot of fights like this throughout the card. How hungry are they? How much pressure are they under? There's a lot of things other than how did these guys get on for the last 8 weeks in training camp? What are their mindsets going into this? But I do have Anders, just more so based on the level of competition that he has faced. Both guys are very capable of going out and performing and picking up that win, but I'm giving a slight edge to Anders here.
And how do you see it going? Finish or?
No, I see a decision happening here. I see I should see it. I see a decision. If anyone was going to finish, I'd actually pick Stewart with a TKO. But I think that Anders will use that bit of experience that he has, especially experience against high level competition, to eke out, but to put in a pretty good performance and get a decision.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I do think Anders just about will get the finish. And that's more so Stewart's susceptibility to being finished. But like you say, anytime. Sorry,
what kind of finish are you thinking?
I think it'll be TKO. He'll get him down, and it'll either be a TKO or a KO. I can't really picture a KO, but TKO for sure. In the next one up, very similar in the sense that these guys' records in the UFC, it would be very easy to overlook them. You have Manuel Cape, who's 0-1 in the UFC.
Yeah.
But he is 6-3 in Ryzen, and he fought some legit fighters in Ryzen. He has wins over Ito, Mizugaki, Asakura. He has losses to Haraguchi. He has a win over Ian McCall in Ryzen as well. And his debut in the UFC was against Pantoja, which is a phenomenally tough, highly ranked opponent to be debuting against. And then on the other side, you have Nicolai Pereira, who has is returning to the UFC after being away for 2 fights. He's fought in Brave and elsewhere. But he had a 5-2 run before he was let go by the UFC, including wins over Smolka, including a win over Moraga. These are guys that could easily be quite highly ranked in the UFC right now. And I see the winner of this being a contender, weirdly enough, at flyweight, even though neither guy has a ranking next to their name, I don't believe. For me, I just think based on the level of competition they've fought, both again is extremely high. But I think Cape has that experience. Even though he's only had 1 fight in the UFC, I can see him picking up a finish victory in this one, and he has a lot of TKOs on it, or KOs on his record as well.
Yeah, I have Cape here for a number of reasons. Number one, he fought Pantoja to a decision. Now, he did look extremely tentative in that fight.
Yeah,
I think everybody, the commentary, I listened to most fights without the commentary to try and get it unbiased and to try and look at it from a completely unbiased perspective. But when I looked at that, it was with the commentary, and they were even saying that they were trying to urge him to go. A lot of times that happens. You can fight high level competition, but you get signed and you're finally with the promotion that you want to be with, or a high level promotion, and you just can't. You're gun shy, you're trigger shy, and you won't go. And Pantoja, I thought we looked phenomenal. I think that his next fight is going to be excellent. I can't wait to see who he gets next. I'm going to pick Cape here, more so the fact that I think that he'll have something to prove.
Yeah,
I think that he'll really want to try go out on a shield. If anything, I think he'll really push a pace here on this one. I think Nicolai Pereira will look to, he'll want to put a stamp on this fight, only getting back into the UFC. But I think the nerves might be there. The fact that, he has a second chance, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
But I'm going to go with Cape. He was only in there very recently. I think he has that on his side. And I think that he'll be disappointed by not letting it go in the last fight. I think he'll come out with a point to prove, and I think he'll pick up the win. I do think it'll be by decision, though.
Yeah, a lot of these fights at 25 do go the distance. There's not too many finishers there. I just think Cape is one of those guys that has that capabilities of getting a finish, and he's proved that so far in his career.
Just go back one, Paul, if you don't mind, because I was super impressed by Pantoja in the last Cape fight. I know this is going off topic, but who would you give Pantoja next in the 125-pound division? Now that's an exciting division now.
See, this is the thing. It's a tough one. I think you've Askarov. It should be next up after the current title fight. Maybe someone in the ilk of a Brandon Royval will be a good fight for Pantoja, a good back and forth. I think that would be an exciting fight. Both guys are right there as well. They're kind of between that 10 and 4 position. That'd be an interesting one for me.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to 25-pound division. Is just, it went from almost being done to, and now people are really excited to see these guys throw down. And it was always surprising to me, and especially when you had Demetrius Johnson, the best pound for pound fighter at the time, anyway, in there doing his thing, and his clashes with with the high level competition that he had, but people just weren't respecting what these guys were doing. But it's good to see it, resurge.
And in fact, Kai Kara France had a big finish there as well on the UFC 259. That could be a good shout for Pantoja next.
He was in big trouble too early on. You know what I mean? You had a high level guy with his back, and kept his composure and got the knockout. That would be a really interesting fight. I'd like to see that.
For sure. Next up on the card, we have Jonathan Martinez against Davy Grant. Two similar guys in their record, a lot of experience. Both have 16 fights, 13-3 for Martinez, 12-4 for Grant. Martinez is coming off 2 big wins. And for me, you have Thomas Almeida and Frankie Sainz, who were at one time considered top contenders there at that weight class. He's 4-2 overall in the UFC, but his 2 losses are to Sukum Tat and Schnell. Actually, sorry, the Schnell one was outside the UFC. But they're 2 tough losses. Like, they're good name guys. They're tough outs for anybody. Davy Grant, on the other hand, he's had a tough run. He is after coming off 2 wins, but it's the Grigory Popov and Martin Day. No disrespect to those guys, but they're not top level fighters. They're not the upper echelon at this moment. I think Martinez has faced the tougher guys, and I can see Martinez getting a finish in this one as well. So far I have 3 TKO finishes on my picks, but yeah, I can see Martinez getting it done here and getting the finish.
Yeah, I've I'm a big fan of Davy Grant, and I just like European guys doing their thing. And I think Davy Grant is just someone with an unbelievable amount of potential. He's just been plagued with injuries. He's been a little bit more. He's been in there a little bit more. He's been a little bit more active as of late. But I'd like to see him, go out and I try and reach that potential everybody is so keen to see. And I'm going to go with Davy Grant. I should say this before, but these cards, these fights on this card are super close. It's a flip of a coin for most, and this one is a real. Is a really good example of this. So rather than trying to pick with my head, I'm going to pick with my heart for this one. I'm going to pick Davy Grant. I want to see Davy Grant put in a really good performance, and move up those rankings and get that see that potential that he has in him. So I'm going to go with Davy Grant on this one.
Perfect. And moving on to the next one, we have Danny Ige versus Gavin Tucker. This for me is the most one of the most exciting fights, and obviously the main event is huge as well, and the co-main is good. But this for me is one of the ones I'm most excited for. Danny Ige is coming off that tough loss, but it's the Calvin Kattar who was right there before the Max Holloway fight. Previous to that, he had a 6-fight win streak. He was coming off Dana White's Contender Series. Hot prospect. All those Hawaiian guys are tough anyway. And he's taking on Gavin Tucker, who's on a 3-fight win streak. He's only lost in the UFC to Rick Glenn, which is a bit of a concern because I don't think Rick Glenn is thereabouts around the top 15. For me, I think Ige gets it done, but I think this is a very tough fight, and I think it's a back and forth fight. For me, this could easily be fight of the night.
I love this fight. I'm actually as excited for this fight as I am for the main event, to be honest with you. Especially after Gavin Tucker's last performance. I thought he looked absolutely outstanding. And I've said it many times before, you're only good as your last performance. Look at Gavin's Tucker's last 3 performances have been excellent. But his last one, he really stood out. He really stood out. I thought his style was, I thought everything to do with his game looked absolutely brilliant. My biggest concern is I knew that would eventually happen, but there we go. My only concern is Danny Ige has been really on a roll, and he's been up there against very high level competition. I think that could be the factor, especially like he's been against Barboza, a big hitter. He lost to Kattar as well. That was by decision, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So he's well able to absorb a shot, and I think that's where Gavin Tucker's strengths lie is in that. So it's more than likely if Gavin Tucker can take a win, it'll be by decision. But I don't know if he's seasoned enough against someone like Danny Ige to do so. But you know what? I'm going to go with Tucker on this one. I want to see another contender come out of the mix. I like EJ. I like Gavin Tucker, but I'm going to go with Tucker just based on his last performance. I was so impressed with it. Maybe it'll be a step up again since.
For sure. We're really mixing it up now. I thought we were going to have the same picks the whole way through this card.
Yeah, the first 2 were the same, weren't they? First 2 or 3. Well, we're trying to make it interesting.
Trying to pull ahead in the rankings. In the co-main event, of course, you have Misha Cirkunov against Ryan Spann. And Misha Cirkunov, 9 fights in the UFC and has never gone to the judges' scorecard.
That's mental.
Look, it's light heavyweight. Guys go to sleep, but his only losses are to Walker, Glover, and Volkan Ozdemir. 3 huge names and contenders, guys that have either fought for the belt or could easily be on track to fight for the belt. His last performance as well, a huge submission win over another top prospect, Jimmy Crute. He's 2-3 in the UFC. Or 2-3 in his last 5, 6-3 in the UFC overall. This guy gets it done and gets it finished, but he's fighting a guy, Ryan Spann, who he comes out and he puts people to sleep. He's a Dana White Contender Series alum. He only has 5 decisions in 24 fights. He is coming off the loss to Johnny Walker as well, so both guys have that KO loss to Johnny Walker. Yeah. But for me, I just think the veteran Cirkunov gets it done here. And I can see it. I don't know whether it'll be a TKO or a sub, but he'll get it done within the distance.
Yeah, this is again. We're talking about a flip of a toss of a coin. This is exactly it. I went back and forward this one for the last few days, but I'm going to go with Ryan Spann. I'm going against you on this one again. So whatever happens,
Real
there's going to be
interesting
a
this
big
week.
yeah, we're even on the picks. Next week is going to be a very different story. Obviously, we'll find out more Saturday. Ryan Spann, but again, Paul, you're looking at two guys that are massive hitters, big finishers, plenty of experience. You said that Cirkunov's going to use his experience of 20 fights, but Spann is 22.
Yeah.
It's going to be, but I know what you mean about the high level competition that he has faced, and you look at his losses against three killers as well. It's
Yeah.
but the biggest point about this is whoever comes out of this is in the mix. Again. Right now they're both at a level where they're outside the top 10. They're probably about 15, I'd imagine, around that mark.
I think Ryan Spann isn't ranked anymore. I'm open to correction on that, but I think Cirkunov's there in around 13, 14 anyway.
Yeah. So a good win from either guy, especially one which is more than likely going to be a knockout, but judging by both guys' records, is going to propel them back into a really good fight next. So, but I'm going to go with Spann on this one. I'm going to go with Spann, not for any other reason, only that I think that he, his finishing is excellent. So Cirkunov's, but I think that he's just a little bit slicker.
Yeah, no problem at all. So we're really split so far. And then we have the main event. I can't see us being split on this one somehow, but I could be proved wrong yet. You have Leon Edwards 18-3 against Belal Muhammad 18-3. And we put out our latest episode of Behind the Tape today, and there's a couple of interesting stats about this fight on that video on YouTube, so go check it out. You've Leon and
before you keep going there, I said it last week about I come on here for my 45 minutes each week. I do my study for what's coming on. That's my work done. The work you do is phenomenal. I think people should really appreciate that. But the behind the tape work that you're doing I love it. I absolutely love it. So people should really get on that. If you want to get hyped before a fight, look at that. It's awesome, Paul. So well done, man.
And big shout out to Andy Hickey as well, who's given us the stats for those ones as well. It wouldn't be possible without that. So this fight you have Leon Edwards on an 8-fight win streak. The loss before that, of course, to champion Usman. He's 10-2 in the UFC overall. Then you have Belal Muhammad on the other end, who's having a quick turnaround here on a 4-fight win streak. Momentum certainly seems to be on his side, which is strange going against a fighter on an 8-fight win streak. His last loss was to Jeff Neal, and he's 9-3 in the UFC overall. This one for me is one, as opposed to the co-main event, this one absolutely goes the distance for me. Belal has 9 wins and 7 decision wins in the UFC. Leon has 10 wins and 7 decision wins in the UFC. It's just one of those. The only common opponent to these guys is Vicente Luque, and Vicente Luque is top level for me. Edwards has that eked out a decision win over Luque, and Belal Muhammad has a KO loss to Luque. And Belal Muhammad has been knocked at a canvas in every loss he's had so far. I think Edwards gets it done here, but I do think it's by decision. Yeah,
I have Edwards for this. But I love the dynamic of it. I love the background of this. Edwards has been out for a very, very long time. I'd be very interested to see his mindset going into it. I'm sure there's pressure on him, but I don't think he's a man who feels much pressure, to be perfectly honest. He's a very cool, calm, collected fighter and character. I really like the Edwards brothers. I think the two of them are fantastic fighters. So I'm just delighted to see Leon back. I'm just wondering how he's feeling going into this. There's been a couple of, and not from his own fault, there's been a lot of good fights slip by the wayside on him. There was him and of course Khamzat that fell through many times. There was talks of him.
Tyron Woodley was supposed to be headlining just before the pandemic hit, and headlining London as well.
Absolutely. There was lots of really good fights there to make. Of course, the Masvidal, that was a narrative there as well. And I still don't know why it wasn't made. But, I wonder, is there a chip on his shoulder now that he's fighting Belal Muhammad? You know what I mean? A guy that don't get me wrong, I think he deserves his slot. He's coming in, and he's coming in with a lot of momentum, but he's not top 5. He's not many people can say that they've went 8-0 or an 8-fight win streak in the welterweight division, in a very stacked division. So I'm wondering what his attitude is in this. I don't think he takes it lightly. I don't think he feels the pressure. I think he goes in and he is the consummate professional that he always is. And I think he gets the win. I can see him finishing Muhammad.
Yeah.
I think that he'll come out with a lot of fire in his belly. I think that he'll, after being out for so long, I think he cracks him with a left hand, and I think he TKOs him. One thing that people don't speak about Edwards enough of is how well rounded he is. He is absolutely excellent. A striker. He's an excellent grappler. His fence work is beautiful. He does everything so well, and I don't think he'll give Muhammad a sniff. Really, I don't think.
Yeah, yeah.
I like Muhammad, but I just think it's a bit of a jump too soon. And for that reason, I think Edwards gets the TKO win.
Very good. And just to look at Edwards' record there, a lot of people have been talking shit online about the 8-fight win streak and who's he fought. Within those 8 fights, he has beaten RDA, he's beaten Gunnar Nelson, he's beaten Donald Cerrone and Vicente Luque. I mean, yes, none of those guys are currently ranked in the top 5 of the welterweight division, but they're all guys that were thereabouts. RDA fought for a welterweight strap. When he fought Cerrone was on the rise in that welterweight division. Gunnar Nelson was thereabouts before they fought. Vicente Luque is getting there right now. I think he's fought half elite level competition and half competition that was maybe ranked 15 to 30. But again, when you're coming into the UFC, you're going to fight those guys. I think the hatred that's going towards Leon Edwards and this that he doesn't take tough fights is an absolute load of nonsense based on looking at his record.
You hit the nail on the head. How is it that guy's fault? He's always asking for tough fights. He's asking for the champ. He's asking for Masvidal. He asks for basically anyone who's going to give him a fight, you know, and he deserves a lot more credit than he's getting. And I hope that he gets by Muhammad, and I hope he gets a great big fight next. Dana White did say that with impressive performance and impressive finish that he does get a title shot, and I think he definitely warrants a title shot because of the work he's done. Now trying to get by Usman, that's another story because Usman has looked phenomenal as of late.
Different beast,
yeah. But look, I'm very interested to see in what this break has done. Will he look better? Will he look the same? You know, I think we're going to get a bigger and better version of Leon Edwards now after the time away.
Yeah, and there's just a small lingering concern for me. Belal Muhammad has looked phenomenal of late, and I mean phenomenal. So there is that lingering concern that Belal could go against the script here and upset Edwards and set him back quite badly.
I get you in the sense of right, he's only had a fight recently that he's fought in 2021, while Edwards has been out for a very long time. If he was a big hitter and a big finisher, that concern would be there more for me. Where he's maybe catching Leon only finding his stride, or maybe ring rust is playing a part in round 1 or 2, but it's a 5-round fight against a guy who's very, very smart. Leon Edwards' fight IQ is another topic that's not discussed enough about him. He fought, Gunnar, who I know firsthand how amazing his grappling is. He's a very, very smart, wily veteran, and I like Muhammad. I just think it's a jump too soon. I would have liked him in another fight, but who else are they going to give Edwards at this stage? You know, it's like the man can't get a fight.
He's finding it impossible at 170. We are going to get to our bets of the week, and I'm going to go first this week. It's a little bit of an interesting one, and the odds on it aren't great. They're roughly about evens. I have the Misha Cirkunov and Ryan Spann fight not to go the distance, and I have Edwards and Muhammad against your prediction to go the distance.
Okay, that's interesting. Like I said, most of these fights are a flip of a coin, and because Izzy let me down last week, I'm going to have to play it a bit safer this way. I'm going to go main event Leon Edwards to win.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go with way down in the prelims Rani Yaha to win by submission. So he's not amazing odds by submission, but the method will help a little bit to bring those odds up. And I'm going to go with Leon Edwards to pick up the win as well. So a double on that. It is safe. I apologize, but we need to get the ball rolling again.
100%. I'm down 50 quid on my bet so far. Well, thereabouts. Yeah, it's absolutely brutal. But listen, guys, that's been our episode of ProAm Predictions. We will be back, of course, next week where we preview Holland versus Brunson, another phenomenal fight night card, and then you have UFC 260 the week after that. Be sure and like and subscribe on YouTube and hit the bell to be notified when our videos go live. Do you have anything to end on, Brian?
No, it's just last week. I think if you did put money down, you might have been let down by Izzy. But look, there's plenty more. There's plenty more fights left, and Bellator is going to be starting back in April, so that's just around the corner too. So we got a lot to look forward to. So yeah, stay in with us. Stay in there.
We'll pull it back, guys. We'll pull it back. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.